expecting some severe damage.
5 or 6 hours now of heavy rain to go along with that.
Salvation Army plans.
This Category 5 storm caused $108 billion in damage, killed an estimated 1,800 people, and displaced millions more. The devastated city of New Orleans was forced to completely rebuild, resulting in a drastic change to their education system. Before Hurricane Katrina, New Orleans' education system was considered one of the worst in the country and consisted of many large, segregated public schools that boxed all students into one standardized curriculum. After the storm, the state of Louisiana took over, firing 7,000 public school teachers within a matter of weeks and implementing a system still in place today, which is dominated by publicly funded but privately operated charter schools.
There was a plan being formed to take away the schools in Orleans Parish.
Matter of fact, they didn't want to open them. They're saying he had no intentions of opening the regular schools. He wanted charter groups from around the country to open the schools.
The goal was to get rid of the low-performing public schools and reform the entire system. But is that really what happened? Average test scores and school performance rankings suggest academic improvement. But does the post-Hurricane Katrina implementation of charter schools in New Orleans ensure equity within their schooling system?
Is it working?
No.
The charter system has done tremendously well for the local kids here. It's working for those people who have their money in their hand in the cookie jar.
To look deeper into this issue, we have to understand the difference between charter schools and any other public school. According to Education Research Alliance NOLA, a group advocating for charter schools that compares charter schools to traditional public schools, TPS, it becomes clear that charter schools are more beneficial for Black students. Charter schools provide 65 more days of schooling than TPS, which has increased their average reading and math test scores, which is also seen in low-income student scores. Charter schools have allowed students to choose their own school by removing boundary lines, so many parents of Black students end up deciding to send their children to a culturally affirming school, one that has a similar racial population. Not only are Black students thriving, but so are all major subgroups of students. Douglas Harris, a professor of economics from Tulane University, states, African American, low-income, special education, and English language learners were at least as well off after the reforms in terms of achievement. According to studies put forth by Credo at Stanford University, the free choice involved in charter schools allows students to flourish, resulting in higher test scores and eventually eliminating traditional public schools.
Hello, I'm Dr. Elizabeth Linden from the Stanford Center for Opportunity Policy and Education. As the charter school system grows, issues around segregation arise. Charter schools are highly criticized for this and for good reason. When dealing with the research that's been done, we must look at the credibility of the studies. An article written last spring, produced by Credo, was found to be flawed. Andrew E. Mall, a professor of research methodology at the University of California at Santa Barbara, reported, Credo cannot be regarded as compelling evidence of the effectiveness of charter schools as compared to TPS. The studies Credo published didn't compare equal charter schools with equal TPS. Credo was also exposed by Cohen Institute for Public Education Initiatives by posting higher than expected graduation rates and test scores. Credo is a discredited source with invalid research, which is compelling considering that all the evidence that was used in backing up this sub-question is from Credo. Having evidence be discredited kills the argument. With no valid evidence to support this idea of equality within charter schools, there is nothing positive to argue.
Nationwide activist groups have risen to bring attention to the issue of segregation in charter schools. One of the groups who fought against the reforms, the Black Alliance for Education Options, attempted to protect parent opinion. For over 20 years, the BAEO sought racial justice in schools. They were for the voucher system. They supported the charter school ideals while opposing segregation, resulting in the fight for parent opinion. We know there is much more to accomplish in the education reform space, and that an unapologetically Black-led organization should be at the forefront of the ongoing struggle for high-quality schools. The BAEO has fought for people of color to be seen. The system, according to the BAEO, alongside many others, have failed to solve the problems regarding race and income.
The charter school system in Orleans tries to be non-segregated for students, but often doesn't live up to the standard. When briefly looking at the system, it is easy to say that charter schools in Orleans have helped rebuild the school situation after Hurricane Katrina. However, the fact that they have not helped students of color is often overlooked. The leaders of the state and the schools have not cleared up problems regarding segregation, and through the charter school system, more discriminating acts occur, such as cherry picking, an unfair lottery system, and hiring solely white teachers.
Understanding the system is the first step, but the application process is another. In December 2017, the Louisiana Department of Education, LDA, published a 13-page Everything You Need to Know guide to their charter school application process in order to assist parents and students. The actual application has 5 components: a proposal overview, application paperwork, finances template, background checks, and an eligibility form. To simplify the process, One App, New Orleans Public School Enrollment Portal, offers parents the ability to apply to 89% of the city's public schools by ranking their preferred schools on one application. Their algorithm strategy-proof design was inspired by the Nobel Prize-winning research of Stanford's economist Al Roth, with the purpose of creating a centralized enrollment system across charter and district sectors. Parents can request up to 8 schools by submitting a ranked list to the Louisiana Recovery District, RSD. The RSD then assigns students to schools based on the family's preferences, school's enrollment criteria, and seat availability.
Despite the child-friendly fonts and theme, the application process for Louisiana charter schools is extremely complicated and confusing, leaving the applicant with more questions than they initially had. While looking further into one of the 5 components to the LDA application, the eligibility criteria document, any understanding of who is eligible to apply became more unclear. The eligibility criteria includes phrases such as, if you are a Type 5 applicant, without defining the different types of applications, or other unfamiliar terminology, making it very difficult to complete this and several other required components. One app boasts about the ability their computer algorithm has to lessen the load on families during the application process, but a study conducted by the Center on Reinventing Public Education, CRPE, suggests that actually many parents think otherwise.
Surveying New Orleans parents in 2014, CRPE surprisingly found that families that choose schools after the One App was instituted in 2012 reported greater difficulty with the number of applications and deadlines involved than families that chose schools before the One App. In many cases, One App fails families because they cannot assign students their top choice and unfortunately sometimes cannot offer placement anywhere.
For many families, especially those who come from poor backgrounds and lack much education, these application processes are very difficult to understand and complete. The difficulty of this process puts certain students at a disadvantage, furthering racial and socioeconomic segregation and inequity.
With the implementation of the charter school system in New Orleans, average standardized test scores have improved along with school rankings, but this may not be as beneficial as it appears. The highest performing and most selective charter schools are disproportionately white. According to a report put forward by Stanford University, 89% of white students attend a Tier 1 school, while only 23% of African American students and 21% of students below the poverty line attend these schools. Tier 1 schools have a higher percentage of white students and are consistently ranked the best in both New Orleans and the state of Louisiana. Tier 2 and 3 schools, on the other hand, are ranked much lower in terms of education offered and student performance, but enroll the majority of African American students. Charter schools have a very intense focus on academic achievements, valuing this above equity.
But there's so many incentives. You know, when you have a certain score in this city, you will get accolades not only from the state, but celebrities, cameras.
A recent report by Education Research corroborates this statement, finding that many principals participate in selecting or counseling out certain students based on their expected performance on standardized tests.
Charter schools clearly select or push out specific students to bolster their ranking and test scores. With highly ranked schools being disproportionately white and low-ranking schools being majority black, it makes sense that the white students are the ones benefiting from this process, while black and low-income students suffer. Charter schools act like a business, not like a school. They prioritize how they look on paper, the test scores their students get, and their ranking, not equity or diversity among students. With such little focus on an individual student needs, those who are disadvantaged often are left behind and given little opportunity to succeed, which ends up segregating the system by race and socioeconomic status.
Effects of Hurricane Katrina can still be felt today in the New Orleans school system. Before the storm, the public school system struggled. As charter schools become a highly debated topic across the nation, their effectiveness within New Orleans must be evaluated. Although the system has improved school rankings and test scores, this has come at the cost of segregation and inequality. The extreme focus on these factors, along with the unfair application process, have allowed charter schools to act like a business, not an education system designed to benefit the students.